Hey, this is Chris Roper, Editor-in-Chief of the IGN PlayStation team, and I'm here today to talk about LEGO Indiana Jones: The Original Adventures. LEGO Indiana Jones is Traveler's Tales' fourth LEGO game, the first three being Star Wars games, of course. And LEGO Indiana Jones feels a lot like the Star Wars games, obviously. The control setup is exactly the same, regardless of which platform you're playing on. The mechanics are identical, but one of the kind of cool new things about the game is that you can pick up items and use them. So if you have somebody that has a wrench, they can fix items, or if you have somebody that has a shovel, they can dig up treasures from under the ground. Now, the game goes through the first three original movies. So you have Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and The Last Crusade. A lot of the environments in the game are inspired by the movies rather than being taken directly from them. Some of them are pretty close, like the temple at the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark, which serves as your tutorial for the game. That's pretty close, but things like when you get to the room with the golden head, there's like these spinning, rotating platforms that you have to jump across, which obviously isn't in the movie. You'll see a lot of things and you recognize what they're supposed to be, but they're not exact, as opposed to in the Star Wars games, they're a little bit closer. So the focus of the game obviously is basically breaking a bunch of stuff and collecting a lot of gems and basically running through and killing a bunch of dudes, but with LEGO Indiana Jones, the focus is a little more on adventuring than it was in LEGO Star Wars. So you'll have more puzzles you need to solve. You'll need to do things where you go pick up items and bring them back to a place and then build something to be able to leave the area. One of my only complaints about this sort of mechanic is that some of the puzzles are a little tricky to figure out. There's not very obvious hints where they tell you need to go use something. Lots of places where Indy can use his whip, the ground will be kind of glowing where you can go use them, but there's a segment or two where it's not very obvious to do that. The boss fight at the end of Temple of Doom is a little confusing. You have to just basically experiment until you figure out how you're actually supposed to beat the guy. It certainly doesn't break the game, but it is a little confusing. And another thing that's kind of odd is that there are some fairly heavy platforming and jumping segments in the game, but you know, given a game where you are essentially invincible and you can't ever really die, it seems a little weird that a game that's sort of catered for everyone, and you know, kids especially, that some of these parts are so difficult. Now, you can obviously get by them, and that's not really a huge deal, but it sort of seems like a couple parts are a little unbalanced, and they're not sure who they're making the game for. But again, you know, everything does work, and it's all pretty fun. Now, like the Star Wars games, Indiana Jones is basically based on running around and smashing stuff, and that is still super fun. And a huge draw to the game, like I mentioned before, is the replayability. So once you finish any of the chapters in any of the movies, you can come back and do it in free play, use any of the characters you've unlocked. And there are a whole lot of unlockables you can get in the game. Traveler's Tales has done a pretty good job, once again, of giving you incentive to go back and get these things. There's an artifact room in the top of Barnett College, which acts as your hub in the game, where it shows you all the artifacts you've collected, and then once you get them all, you can do some extra special stuff, which I won't really spoil here, but it's all pretty cool. So Traveler's Tales, once again, has delivered a very simple and yet very engaging game. The game, once again, supports co-op, you know, drop in and out, play anytime you want to, so that's, you know, makes it great to play with a friend. There's still no online co-op of any sort, but, you know, sitting there with your friend on the couch and running through the game and having them come in and out is a lot of great fun. There's nothing really absolutely new that you haven't seen in LEGO Star Wars before, so if you've gotten tired of that franchise, you're not really going to see a whole lot new here, but it still is really fun at its core. And you know, if you were into LEGO Star Wars or you're just a big Indiana Jones fan, then be sure to check this one out.